Welcome in. It's Game Time Decisions. We are live on SportsGrid. I'm Kevin Walsh with you on this Thursday night. I got to tell you, the Game Time Decisions, people have been making these for how many hours now? 11 a.m. Eastern. The college basketball board began 8 a.m. If you were out there on the West Coast, that's outrageous. It's lovely, though. Over 50 games today of Division I men's college basketball action for us to break down. We have still got a ton to go. Some big teams are in action right now. UCLA and Oregon doing battle in the Pac-12 tournament. San Diego State looking to take down UNLV in the Mountain West tournament. We will talk about both of those tournaments, their remaining games. We've had some ACC action already complete. A huge win from Pittsburgh over Wake Forest to get themselves into the semifinals of that tournament. A meeting where they will play the UNC Tar Heels. St. John's possibly locking themselves into the tournament with a dominant win over Seton Hall. Their next game is against UConn. Win. They're definitely in. It certainly is going to be a tough task, though. That game, of course, will be at Madison Square Garden. We'll get to all of this, but before that, some breaking NFL news over the last hour or so around the Washington Commanders and the Seattle Seahawks. Washington sending Sam Howell over to Seattle. And look, if you're the Seahawks and you see this situation, some people are trying to figure out, does this mean they will move on from Geno Smith? The answer to that is yes. My follow-up would be where? I mean, right now I'm struggling to find a spot for Justin Fields. And any spot you could probably throw Justin Fields out there on, you would imagine Geno would be in the same mix. Are teams more inclined to trade for Geno than Fields? It feels a bit surprising as we bring our radio audience into the fold. Sirius XM, channel 159. I'm Kevin Walsh with you here on SportsGrid. It's Game Time Decisions on this Thursday night. There are some Eagle chatters, by the way, around Justin Fields. Of course, that would mean he's a backup quarterback. And again, you might say, why are we talking Justin Fields off of a Sam Howell trade? Because Seattle was a spot that Fields still made some sense for, possibly. And I don't really see Fields joining Sam Howell and rounding out this quarterback room. Again, maybe it's a Fields-Geno swap, and the Bears think that Geno Smith could back up Caleb Williams nicely, start if by chance they didn't want to play Caleb week one. I could see it. I'm not banking on it. But again, we are talking about a situation, and that's why I'm kind of really hammering this home. The Justin Fields trade was a foregone conclusion pretty much the moment they got that pick, and it's something we've wondered about since the Bears got the first overall pick. We are now here with countless quarterback moves made and a continuing diminishing amount of spots for Justin Fields to land. Denver, Tennessee, two spots that catch my eye. We'll see how they play out. Howell, again, I would expect this is likely rounding out a quarterback room. If the Seahawks do the same bizarre thing the Commanders did, which is force a fifth-round pick into their starting quarterback role, then expect the Seahawks to be drafting high next season, because this is not it. Let's open it up, put our eyes on the slate here, college, NBA, NHL, and then we'll get to the rest of the breaking NFL news with the Calvin Ridley situation. Look at this. I mean, and these are just kind of the big games that are left. We've already played big games. There are big games outside of this. Ohio State and Iowa we'll talk about a bit. The winner of that plays Illinois as somebody with the Illini to win the Big Ten. Look, careful what you wish for. I think both are solid teams. I know Ohio State's better. I'm a bit worried, though, if Illinois draws Iowa again, having to beat them a third time. A lot of offense, we'll see. Texas A&M is the 80-1 shot we played to win the SEC, a 5.5-point favorite of Ole Miss. That is an important game. Duke, NC State, as the Blue Devils and UNC, a lot of people believe, are on a destined path to play a third time in the ACC title game. That is a double-digit number. You see some Mountain West action popping off here. We mentioned San Diego State's playing now. Colorado State, Nevada is a short line. New Mexico, Boise, a short line as well. New Mexico probably needs it more than any of these other teams in the Mountain West, but it's something to keep tabs on there. Utah off to a really nice start in the Pac-12 tournament. That was the 18-1 shot that we played to win that. Arizona today took out USC. Look, the Trojans love, from a numbers perspective, I understood. having to beat Arizona again in the second game of the tournament, first for Arizona, I just could never get there. And ultimately, USC couldn't get there either. They lost that game by, I think, 21 points. I think it was 70-49, your final score. So that does it for the Trojans. Isaiah Collier's career with USC, done. NBA, Ronnie James. What's next? We shall see. Nova, Marquette, no Kolick. We'll see if Nova can make it happen here. Baylor plays Cincinnati. Let's just stop there for a moment quickly on this. By the way, that Virginia-BC game is big as well. Look, Cincinnati drummed Kansas, drummed them. That Jayhawks team is going to get back Dickinson and McCullough, we believe, for the tournament. But, man, if you want an idea of what Kansas basketball will look like without their two best players, which is understandable, but still, that was a short line, inside three, right? Kansas got smashed by Cincinnati. And even those guys coming back, are they going to be 100%? There is a lot of reasonable concern in Lawrence. Let's hit the NBA slate here just so we can kind of set the table for everything tonight. The big game in the association. Look, a couple of good ones. Milwaukee, Philadelphia, I'm excited by. There's some late-night West Coast action. But, of course, it's going to be the matchup with the Boston Celtics and the Phoenix Suns. Boston is laying their second shortest number at home all season long. Phoenix getting respect here tonight. Devin Booker in the lineup. Kristaps Porzingis out of the lineup. We have a 5.5-point spread, 5 in some spots for the Boston Celtics, total 226. Can the Celts get the job done, or can Phoenix put another nice win on the board, just winning in Cleveland their last time out? Let's zoom past this. By the way, you'll notice on that Dallas OKC, big double-digit number. No Luka Doncic tonight for the Mavs, so Kyrie Irving is going to need to step up in a major way for the Mavericks. NHL board tonight is jam-packed. Joe Madden will be here in about a half hour or so to help us go through the ice tonight. Tons of action. She has a pick, as always, in every single game. Some of the big teams, Toronto going right and playing Philadelphia. Pittsburgh going to be favored over the Sharks. Can anybody trust the Penguins right now? And then a big one with the Rangers and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Probably the best game on this board here. Let's just quickly hit the Calvin Ridley Tennessee Titans situation. Bit surprising because Tennessee feels like a clear and obvious rebuild team. To steal him from the division, expected to be one of the division leaders in Jacksonville is a bit funny. Who is this team's quarterback going to be heading into next season? That is one of the big questions that remains, but a big-time wide receiver off the board going to Tennessee. Let's put this quick pick on the board. Coach James Young is here in 2 minutes to go through his college picks and his NBA picks. But the college game at 6:30, we mentioned it. Ohio State, Iowa, over. $152.5. These teams played early February. This total was 6 points higher. I think we're getting a nice little discount here due to the fact that Iowa just played a bang under against the Illinois Illini. But that total was about 20 points higher. Let's get some juice here in the Big Ten. Coach James Young is up next.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Betting in-game, there's a big difference, right? Like the computer changes the number so often. Like, I tried to get this in right now, but in reality, as I saw plus 165 in the arena, they're hitting the shot. And I'm getting this like a couple of seconds late. And even the sports book, like technology can only travel so fast.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
How about this? Nikola Jokic, heavy favorite here at a -170 price, followed by SGA at +250, and Luka Doncic at a 7-1 price.
It would require a whole lot from Luka to 15 of the next 20 games he has to have triple doubles, something absurd. And it really just comes down to Jokic being amazing, doing everything that he's doing. I hate to say it, but he's probably had this locked up the second Embiid was announced out.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid. All right, we're rocking and rolling here on a Thursday night. I'm Kevin Walsh with you. Coach James Young in the fold. College basketball live right now. The big games with respect to the A-10 and the MEAC. UNLV, San Diego State, and then Oregon, UCLA. UNLV, the forgotten team of this Mountain West. They would need to win it outright to get into the tournament. San Diego State firmly in. We'll see how they handle their business. Oregon, UCLA, either team would need to win this tournament outright, I believe, to get into the big dance. If you believe Arizona is vulnerable, which a lot of the people who bet the USC futures, I think, thought were vulnerable, then the winner of Oregon, UCLA is going to have a chance. And on that note, let's bring in Coach James Young. JY here with us on a Thursday. JY, I want to ask you, USC gets smashed, score 49 points. 49 with their season on the line. That's not good. What did you make of the Arizona-USC game today with the Wildcats advancing to the semifinals of the Pac-12 tournament?
Stunned. I thought we were going to get a way better performance out of USC. And if you really look at it, folks, you can't have Collier and Ellis going combined 8 for 24. And Collier, K-Dub, got going in the second half. You know what I'm saying? So to me, this was a really bad look. And Boogie Ellis, obviously going 2 for 11 is just fouling out. They just looked, I thought they were in the game. I think it was 16-14 early on. I said, all right, they're in this. And then they go ahead and shoot 27% from 3, 20 for 56 from the floor, get out rebounded by 14. They shoot 6 free throws. I mean, one thing you always get worried about as a coach is when a team makes more free throws than you attempt. They only attempted 6. Arizona hit 11. That's a problem. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I mean, I guess A&M feels safe because he's had runs, but I think that leash is going to be very short next year.
Yeah, I'll say, because I'm sure some people are wondering, with this being the last game of the USC season, is this Bronny's last game at USC? I would make the yes on that. A huge favorite. A huge favorite. With the next team he plays for, with the Lakers as the favorite, and I'd probably tell you Duke, the Blue Devils, are the second favorite. We'll see what Bronny decides. His dad is not retiring this year, and I don't think he's retiring next year. The All-Star game is in LA in 2 seasons. It would not surprise me if LeBron looks to button it up then, because it kind of works out nicely. And I don't think LeBron's going to look to leave the Lakers. So If LeBron says, you know what, I have another year, the Lakers are going to look to be making moves this offseason. We've already heard the Trae Young stuff. If they do that, LeBron will be good to go. And honestly, Bronny next year can go play again. I think Duke is a legitimate landing spot. They were recruiting him along with Ohio State, were his final three. If he has a nice season, the Lakers will gladly try to draft him. And if it's another disappointing one, the Lakers can take him with the 57th overall pick, and it'll be something to do for LeBron on his last season. And I know that'll upset people. We'll see. But, JY, I would be stunned if Bronny next year, whether he's playing in the NBA or college, is playing for USC next season.
No, I think he's long gone. And let's see what happens on Ohio State. There's now talk that maybe Dusty May have a choice between Ohio State and I think Louisville, if I think I saw this right earlier in the day. Let's see what happens with Ohio State, because that's going to be intriguing too. But, I mean, Cooper Flagg, the other 5-star, Bronny, that does make a lot of sense, K-Dub, because they're going to need, Roach is gone, McClain is gone, they're going to need a point guard, right? So who's the point guard? It's Bronny James.
We'll see how it works out. Let's get to some of the college picks you have today, JY. I'm going to skip ahead. I know it's a later game, but I'm curious to see if this factors in for you. Baylor, okay, you've got them at -7. They're playing Cincinnati. Now, I have the Baylor Bears to win the Big 12 tournament. And pre-tournament, you would have said, Cincinnati beats Kansas, that's a big boost. Nope. It would have been much better for Baylor to play Kansas in this spot. Jayhawks, with that depleted squad, trying to win 2 games in 2 days, not happening. Cincinnati, though, is trying to win 3 games in 3 days. And I'm wondering if that factors in at all for you trusting Baylor in this spot.
Yes. It has to do with playing 3 games in 3 days. I understand that they won big over Kansas. But to me, still 3 games in 3 days, K-Dub, is 3 games in 3 days. And that's just a lot to ask out of a team. Like, it's a Baylor team that now, like you said, it could play itself into possibly winning the Big 12. So I do like the Baylor Bears. I do know that the only game they played was a 62-59 game. I know Baylor is also 3-1 against the spread the last 4 games. And K-Dub, they've been scoring a lot. I think Cincinnati's got problems stopping them. Their legs will get heavy. This could be a game where if you want to wait a little bit, let the game play out, let it get through, let's say, like the first half, and then jump in. I have this crazy thought, Kevin, and maybe I'm in the minority here. I really believe the teams that have played multiple days, right, in a row, right, they seem to me to have the advantage in the first half. So if you want to get tricky, right, Cincinnati, take them plus the points in the first half, and then take Baylor halftime. I did that today with UConn. I took Xavier, ride the momentum. First half, you're only down 1. It was 10.5 at halftime. I ran to the window, took UConn, and they took off running in the second half. Just something to think about what Kevin and I have talked about because of the fact that you don't get the warm-up for only 20 minutes or so, maybe 60, it depends. You get no shoot-around the day before. Sight lines are different. Teams tend to struggle sometimes, Kevin, in the first half, their first game in the tournament.
I'll say this on UConn. They're winning that tournament. When they turn it on, and roll.
Yep.
JY, hold on. You can speak to this, but sometimes running the same thing over and over again can be boring, right? Coaches don't call the same play every time. Kids don't run the same play every time because it's just too repetitive. They ran the same Klingon pick and roll the entire second half, playing Xavier. They're like, no, we're gonna abuse this team. We don't like that this game was close. We're going to abuse this team. And they abused that team. I mean, they won the second half by 26 points. They were a point away from doubling up Xavier. And Xavier's a decent team. Not great, decent, though. Okay? That was, a just over a double-digit line. They beat them by 27 points. It was a 1-point game to break. UConn is winning this tournament. Let's stick Big East. Creighton, big favorite over Providence. Similar result for you in that game?
Yeah, I think, listen, and Providence did look shaky at times versus Georgetown. I know they pulled away a little bit towards the end in the second half, but 1-3 against the spread to end the regular season. Creighton 7-1 against the spread their last 8 to end the regular season. I think if there's a team, I know we'll talk about that other team later on, but if there's a team I think could make a run here, it's Creighton. I think they have the size that are going to give a team like Providence fits. Providence will play off of motion. Creighton will play off of smarts. They will get backdoor cuts. Kalkbrenner gets loose inside, opens up shooters outside. Give me Creighton minus the points.
I will say this for Creighton, who is now, firmly inside the top 10 in the AP poll, which I know doesn't mean a world, but it means whatever, okay? If you look at Creighton basketball, okay, they have 3 losses in their last, it's like 12 or so games, and those losses were by 1 to Butler, 4 in overtime at Providence, and then the Johnnies did beat them, but that was a very desperate St. John's team. I, again, am not the biggest believer in Creighton, but it is underrated how well Creighton is playing at the moment, which does make them dangerous. JY, of course, alluding to Villanova Marquette. I'm also betting a side in that game. We'll talk about it next right here on Game Time Decisions.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Betting in game, there's a big difference, right? Like the computer changes the number so often. Like I tried to get this in right now, but in reality, as I saw plus 165 in the arena, they're hitting the shot, and I'm getting this like a couple of seconds late. And even the sports book, like technology can only like travel so fast.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
How about this? Nikola Jokic, heavy favorite here to minus 170 price, followed by SGA at plus 250, and Luka Doncic at a 7-1 price.
It would require a whole lot from Luka to like 15 of the next 20 games he has to have triple doubles, like something absurd. And it really just comes down to Jokic being amazing, doing everything he's doing. Like, I hate to say it, but he's probably had this locked up the second Embiid was announced out.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid. back right here, Game Time Decisions. Kevin Walsh solo for the next 15 minutes with you. Joe Madden will be in to talk some ice in a little bit here. I'll go through my college card next. All right, Coach, you can come back in. JY's going wild during the break, people. JY's going wild during the break. All right, JY, let's get to this. Villanova Marquette.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great spot for Nova. Took Nova plus the 4.5. Took Nova plus 4.5. Listen, the reality is, and maybe I'm like, I don't know. This could very well be hanging out with Lisi too much. But they played so bad against DePaul, it's perfect. I do believe, look, when you are a lower team, which Nova is not in the class of Marquette, UConn, or Creighton. They're not in that class. So when you're punching up, although to be fair, Nova is much closer to Marquette than that number suggests with Kolek out, which Kolek is out. But when you're punching up, the dream scenario is to win ugly and then have the chance to play great in your next game. Because the best teams can play great consistently. It's what makes them the best. I mean, TCU is still trying to score points against Houston right now, my goodness. And it's the managers out there on the court. I mean, for Villanova, though, the fact that they don't even need, the floor should be a B game from this team. A B-level game is what you should get. Because what they played against DePaul is about as poorly as they could play in a game they managed to still win. Getting 4.5 points, Coach, worth it for me.
It's funny. I was talking to a friend of mine, Marybeth Tukas, who played women's basketball at Nova in the 80s, and she's like, you really think they're covering? I said, Took, they played so damn bad. Like, there's
right.
no way they play worse than this. Like, it's not possible. So now you get a team that sometimes, folks, when you play that bad and you escape the way they escape, sometimes it can start to, like, you relax because you got the person out of the way. Here's the thing, folks. I don't think Villanova's got to compete. Villanova's got to win tonight. If they don't win, they're not making the tournament. I don't care what quadrant, I don't care what bracket you look at, they don't deserve to be in if they don't win tonight. And you're losing Tyler Kolek, and Kevin and I talked about this, one of the 10 most important players in college basketball. He is a point guard. He is a floor general. He is your best player, and he is not playing. Villanova will find a way. And here's the other thing, folks. They have not beaten Marquette since 2021. They have not beaten them. They are due. Villanova plus the points. Villanova on the money line. They're playing Creighton tomorrow night.
Again, look, I will say this, though. I don't love, it's also the Nova needing it thing is they did need the game against Creighton, and then they forgot when the game started. But look, it's just they have a chance to come out here and play significantly better basketball than what we saw. Let's get JY with this Dayton game here. I'll tell you, now Dayton was the favorite prior. Richmond was the 1 seed. Richmond played St. Joe's, gets knocked off. So that's going to shorten that Dayton number, assuming they advance to the next round. They're playing Duquesne. You're going to trust the Flyers here?
I'm trusting the Flyers over Duquesne or Duquesne, whichever way you pronounce it. I'm taking the Dayton Flyers after. I'm sorry, I had to go there. After seeing Richmond get picked off in earlier on today, this is a Dayton team that I think is the best team in the league. They were priced as such beforehand. A Dayton team that has lost 2 of their last 5 games versus a Duquesne team who's coming pretty hot. But, besides that win at VCU, they did win at GW, but LaSalle, not a big game. GW, not good. St. Louis has just fired Travis Ford. This is a big spot here for Dayton to start making their way through this tournament. I like Dayton minus the points tonight.
All right, and then JY, what do you got here elsewise on this board? That's right, little Pac-12 action here. Wazoo, Stanford. What are you doing with this game here? Washington State hoping to play, maybe not hoping to play Arizona, but certainly hoping to get to that Pac-12 title game.
Yeah, and I think they're going to win the Pac-12 title game because I do think even though it would be playing Arizona probably a third straight time, and they beat them twice. I just think this team under Kyle Smith's done a great job. I think this guy will be out of there, should be out of there by the end of this year. Jalen Wells, who has not scored much early in the year, this guy's a bucket getter. They got a bunch of guys that can score, Kevin. They play really good defense. Washington State -7.5 versus Stanford. They're on their march on their way to the Pac-12 title game, I think.
All right, little trust there in Wazoo. JY, we got to get to the NBA because you and I are in agreement tonight on the Boston Celtics.
Mm-hmm.
The Boston Celtics, well, you know what, JY, I'll let you go first. Why do you like the Celtics against the Suns?
Very simple. It's the Celtics. I mean, this is a Celtics team that has covered 3 straight games versus a Suns team that hasn't covered the last 3. They won the last game by 10 versus Phoenix. I just think it's all systems go. And if there's a team that's going to take this seriously, Kate, up to the final game of the regular season and try and win every game and blow out every team and make a statement night in and night out, it's this team. Give me the Boston Celtics -5.5 tonight.
I'm on Boston because this is the second shortest number they have laid in a home game all season long. Shorter than the Denver number, shorter than a Milwaukee number, shorter than a Clippers number. What was the shortest number? A little trivia for people. Home against the Raptors. It was the second leg of a back-to-back. Tatum and Kristaps missed the game. Luke Cornett and Hauser were in the starting lineup. And they still won the game. They just didn't cover the 4.5 number. So why is this the number? Because Devin Booker's back. But that is an overvaluing of Devin Booker. And here's the thing. Not many value Devin Booker as much as I do. I think he's the best player on the Phoenix Suns, and I think that's been the case since Durant has shown up in the desert. That's the reality of it. But if you look, Boston just went to Phoenix and laid 5.5. So that means if we flip home court, this is a double-digit number, right? So is Devin Booker worth 5 points to the number? Kristaps missed the game in Phoenix, so it's not Kristaps-based. So this is a situation here where I think you're getting plenty of value on Boston with what we've seen from the Celtics, 7.5, 8. That's how they treat these home games. So I'll take the 5 here on Boston. JY, you're going to lay another number here tonight with the Houston Rockets. What are you looking for in that game?
I'm looking for a blowout. I got it way earlier at about 8.5, and I think this thing is absolutely ballooned up. But I think this is a case of you have a team in Houston that is kind of on the outside looking in, right, trying to find their way into the play-in tournament, right, against a team in Washington that's just not very good. Houston's always good at home. I like them in this spot. They have covered, I think they're like 6-1-1 against the spread their last 8 games, or 5-1-1, something like that. I like them tonight in this spot. Give me the Houston Rockets minus the points.
All right, JY, and then the last play for you is a team total that does not feel like we are breaking down NBA basketball. What are you doing here in Blazers-Knicks?
I'm taking under 96.5 for the Portland Trailblazers. Why? This New York Knicks team now has OG back, and they have played. Listen, maybe you can think this is my Knicks fandom. They have started to play much better defense as of late. If you would think about the last couple of games that the Knicks have played, right, going in reverse order, the 2 games against Philadelphia, 79, 79, 74, 100, 98, 110 to Golden State, right? So now we look at a Portland team. Ready, folks? Malcolm Brogdon, out. Jeremy Grant, out. Shaedon Sharpe, out. Anthony Simons, questionable. Robert Williams, out. He's been out for like forever. DeAndre Ayton's talking about dominating people. So when DeAndre Ayton starts talking about dominating people like he did last night, I go against DeAndre Ayton because I'm done with DeAndre Ayton. I'm the most unbiased man in sports media, and you know this.
No! I'm telling you right now. JY, I'm going to appear in that studio, like The Undertaker. All right? New best bet, Blazers with the team total over the number. Like the Blazers outright in the game. Might like the Blazers outright. Might just like the Blazers outright. Question for you quickly. This Bucks-Sixers game here tonight. It's 7. It's very similar to the number Philadelphia got from the Knicks. Is Philly gaining respect? Is Milwaukee losing respect due to the fact that the Kings rolled them? What do you think with that Bucks-Sixers game, JY?
I think there's too many points. I think you listen. If you think about the Nova game, right? What we talking about Nova, when a team plays so bad, they got to come back the next time and they just got to be better, right? And I just think I know. You look at the Philadelphia, you're going to say, oh my goodness, they're 2-7 against the spread their last 9 games, right? And then you look at Milwaukee, and they've kind of gone back and forth after going on a run. I think this is too many points. I think pride will be on the line for Philadelphia. And listen, folks, they got to start winning some games here because they're starting to slip down the standings. I like the Sixers plus the points. I'm not saying they win it, K-Dub, but they definitely keep it closer than this.
Sixers are at the moment ahead of the Indiana Pacers by one game in the loss column. They are the 6th seed. They are 2 back of the Knicks for the 4, but they're only 1 game ahead of Miami for the 8. I don't really think you could see a world where Philly would drop down into the 9-10 game, but for Philadelphia, anywhere between 4 and 8 is on the board. And that is true, I would say, of anyone, honestly, between the Knicks and the Heat. I mean, New York is only 3 games up on Miami. Like, that's where the Eastern Conference is right now. For Philadelphia, look, you're just hoping you can get Embiid back, but getting Embiid back and having to play extra basketball, like the play-in tournament, is not how you draw it up. We're back with Joe Madden and the NHL slate next, right here on SportsGrid.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Betting in game, there's a big difference, right? Like the computer changes the numbers so often. Like I this in right now, but in reality, as I saw plus 165 in the arena, they're hitting the shot, and I'm getting this like a couple of seconds late. And even the sports book, like technology can only like travel so fast.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
How about this? Nikola Jokic, heavy favorite here to minus 170 price, followed by SGA at plus 250. Luka Doncic at a 7-1 price.
It would require a whole lot from Luka to, like, 15 of the next 20 games he has to have triple doubles, like something absurd. And it really just comes down to Jokic being amazing, doing everything that he's doing. Like, I hate to say it, but he's probably had this locked up the second Embiid was announced out.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid. All right, we're live right here on SportsGrid. It is a Thursday night. We've gone through the college. We've gone through some NBA. We'll reset all this at the top of the hour. We have not yet got to is a monstrous NHL slate packed here on a Thursday with a ton of interesting spots. So to help us break it all down is Joe Madden. Joe, appreciate you being here. I want to get right to it because one of the most interesting lines, and I know it's probably not the game you were expecting to start with, but for me it is Pittsburgh-San Jose. I know the Sharks are bad. But seeing this Pittsburgh team at minus 345 was a bit surprising to me. What do you make of Penguins Sharks?
Okay, well, you have a Penguins team that looks like they've given up. They've lost their last 4. This core has quit, or have they here? I'm looking at Sid Crosby here to come out and have a fantastic day. I think it all starts and ends with the captain here. They've been protesting what happened at the trade deadline. Trading away Jake Guentzel there was a huge shock to this team and not being buyers. And I think Sid gets his head back on straight. I do think he can get the points on the board and the anytime goal. I'm taking him for the anytime goal at plus 145, the 2+ points at plus 160, I believe it is. And I'm taking for 2+ goals at plus 900. This San Jose Sharks team, while their goaltender has been pretty good in some of these games, I just think the Penguins, enough is enough. Come to play for your fans, and that's what we'll see out of them tonight.
Yeah, got to get the job done here in an opportunity like this, so it certainly makes a ton of sense, Joe. Let's get to probably the biggest game on this slate, which is Tampa Bay and New York. It's a light line here for a home Lightning game. It shows how much respect the Rangers get from the odds makers here. Total in this one's 5.5. What are you looking for?
The Rangers are playing their 3rd game in 4 nights and their 4th game in 6. So this is a hard spot for them. They're coming off that game versus the Carolina Hurricanes, which they were able to win on the road 1-0 as the dog in that situation. I have all the respect for the New York Rangers in this matchup, but my problem here is they're facing the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are rested coming into this game. The Lightning haven't played since they got the shutout win versus the Flyers on Saturday. That was a 7-0 win. Goaltending is going to be elite between Igor Shesterkin and Andrei Vasilevskiy, but I think we get the opposite to what we've seen in Rangers games as of late, that lockdown on defense. I think we're going to have tired legs defensively. This is going to come down to the goaltenders. I expect both goaltenders to be hit early in that first period. I'm going to take the first period over 1.5, Kevin.
All right, little early juice in that game. Interesting rest spot then there against the Rangers. We'll see how that one plays out. So how about this Florida Panthers team as an underdog? You know, we talked when they played Dallas about them being booked as an underdog. And if I'm not mistaken, down 3-0, came all the way back and won that game, which was remarkable. A dog again here to Carolina. What do you see with this one? Another total of 5.5.
It was mind-blowing how the Florida Panthers were able to come back in that one. I do lean on them being able to get the win. We don't get the Florida Panthers a lot as a dog. We got them in the last game. It paid off, and coming in at right around that plus 112, I can't say no to them in this situation, especially with the heart of this team and how they're playing. I'm going to look at something, though, in that first period for my best bets in this game. I'm looking at that no goal again in that first 10 minutes. That's coming in at plus 108. And I'm also looking at the under 1.5 in the first period at minus 116. We saw the Carolina Hurricanes and the New York Rangers play so tight defensively, and we've seen the Florida Panthers lock down on that defensive side of the puck as well. Like I said, when we talked about the Rangers and the Canes the other night, neither of these teams wants to make a mistake out there. The Florida Panthers are in the exact same situation, both so strong defensively. I expect a slower starting first period here. So under 1.5, no goals the first 10.
All right, again, some early action there. Joe, in this 7 o'clock window, we do have a straight pick'em game between Buffalo and New York. The Islanders, of course, minus 110. Any way you slice it here. Another total of 5.5. Some lower scoring games on this board. The juice is pointing towards the over. What do you like here in Buffalo up against the Islanders?
I'm going to take the plus money to the under in this one, Kevin. You look at the goaltending here. While Sorokin's not as solid on the road, I still look at Sorokin being an absolutely fantastic goaltender, road or home. So he's got a 2.99 goals against average. on the season. And then Lankican has been so phenomenally hot here for the Buffalo Sabres. He's got a 2.44. Now, I know the Sabres are coming off that big win where they're able to put up 7 goals versus the Red Wings. And I know the Islanders have been able to do the same. They're coming off they had that 6-game win streak, but then they did lose to the Kings 3-0. I expect the lockdown on the defensive side of things out of both of these teams. I think both of these teams don't want to make those mistakes out there. They're both trying to cling on to some sort of wild card spot. And for both of them, the defense, the goaltending will show up tonight. Give me the under 5.5 with that little bit of plus money, Kevin.
All right, an underlook there in that one. What about Detroit, Arizona? Joe, Detroit a minus 150 favorite, give or take here, against the Coyotes. This total is 6.5. What do you see in this game?
The Red Wings need to get back on track, and I do think this is one where they can score the goals. Connor Ingram hasn't been that solid for the Arizona Coyotes, and then we look at the Red Wings here with Alex Leon, and we're seeing the same sort of thing. Teams are getting up early on this team, and the Red Wings just don't have enough to come back. Now, listening to media releases from their head coach talking about that first period and how they need to show their best in that first period, and that's a concentration for them. I have to take the Red Wings in the first period on the puck line. You're laying that half a goal on the puck line in the first period, and you're getting beautiful plus money here, Kevin. I have the faith in them to come out nice and strong to start this game. Can they get the win over the Arizona Coyotes? Well, I just don't want to touch the full game because they are coming off that loss versus the Buffalo Sabres, but that was one with the Sabres beating them 7-3 that they were just never able to come back in that situation. So I think the best bet is them in the first period. That puck line on the first period is coming in at plus 142. And I think you look at their team total, that team total over 3.5 at minus 110. This is a team that can score those goals. They have all the playmakers on this team, Patrick Kane, Alex DeBrincat, and you look at the Arizona Coyotes, and it's not a team that instills a lot of faith on the defensive side of the puck. So team total over 3.5. And then if you're looking for plus money, that puck line in the first period.
Joe, what about this game between Boston and Montreal? You know, and we kind of always talk about this. Sometimes the plays will come to me as we do these. And Montreal's puck line, minus 137, it's not the cheapest. But my thing with Boston, who's coming off of a home stretch here, and, you know, is booked as this favorite, I know they're good. But it wasn't that long ago. Every single game they played, it felt like went to overtime here. And if this goes to overtime, of course, you can't cover a puck line. I'm curious what you're seeing with the game between Montreal and Boston.
I love that you're looking at Montreal here on the puck line because that's the way I'm going to go with this game. Montreal plus the 1.5 coming in at that minus 137, I think is a fair price on them here at home. You look at the difference between these two teams right now, Kevin, and apart from their play on the ice, is the emotion that both of these teams are playing with. Boston is playing with a lack of emotion. They're going into Montreal. Montreal is a team that's covered the puck line in their last 6 games at home, and they're playing for their fans. Now, it's interesting here with Sam Montague in net. I always look at the goalie props for all of these games. His save shots on goal is coming in at 27.5. The juice on it leads me to believe Montreal has every ability to get the win. It's minus 125 to the over against the Boston Bruins when the Montreal Canadiens allow 1 million shots on net. I did expect this one to be a situation where we would have way less juice on it. We're finding these goaltenders, when the books are really juicing them at minus 125 and above, they're hitting these props. The Boston Bruins are able to get the shots, and Montreal allows them to come in. I think Sam Montague is in for a good day. We saw their other goaltender, Primeau, have a really solid day in that shutout win in his last game, and I think Sam Montague is in for a good one here as well.
You have to go back to December to basically find a run of Bruins hockey where they're covering the puck line on the road, to Joe's point there. So that is, I agree. I concur. It certainly looks like some value. What about Columbus? Joe here hosting the Ottawa Senators as a slight home dog. This 6.5 total here, certainly pointing towards an over. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I got to look at the over all day long. I think both of these teams are two teams that while they're out of the playoff picture, basically, they're still playing for their fans. We've seen a lot or heard a lot from Brady Tkachuk about how he loves playing for this team, and he is playing for the fans and his city. So I think you got to look at the over 6.5. Both of these teams have the playmakers, and I know the last one versus with the Sens versus the Penguins, no one seemed to want to score and get the goals on the board. But I do think in this one, Columbus versus the Senators, with the goaltending that both of these teams have had and the playmakers on offense, you just have to look at this one going to the over. I'm not seeing a lot of defense coming as we go down the stretch here for teams like this that are out of the playoff race. The Ottawa Senators are sitting 8th in the Atlantic, and the Columbus Blue Jackets sitting 8th in the Metro. So I see offensive games. I see a lack of goaltending as well.
Joe, finishing out the 7 o'clock window here is a 7:30, 7:40 puck drop between the Philadelphia Flyers and the Toronto Maple Leafs here. Toronto booked as a favorite, but not by a ton, just about minus 120 here against the Flyers. What do you see in this game, Joe, that's catching your eye?
It's kind of concerning that Toronto isn't a bigger favorite in this, because we know the market always overreacts to the Toronto Maple Leafs, even on the road. So I was kind of shocked by this line, and because of it, I kind of stayed off Toronto on the money line. But one thing I do expect is them to be able to go over their team total sitting at 3.5. That's coming in at plus money at plus 124. So while it scared me a little bit, I had to look back on how they've done versus the Flyers. They have been able to nicely cash versus the Flyers over this number. They've gone over it in their last 6, and I do think they can score on Ergen. You look at how many games Ergen has played as of late, and while he's been solid in a lot of his performances, we've seen some hit and miss situations. With Toronto coming in here, they've been playing strong. We haven't seen them out there on the ice since they got that win over Montreal on Saturday, which was the first time winning in Montreal in like 5 times in Montreal. So they're coming off that big win, and I just think they have every ability to go over this total easily with the playmakers on offense. One thing to note, both of these teams are coming off a win. Both teams have been alternating wins and losses, with the Toronto Maple Leafs alternating wins and losses for their last 5, and the Philadelphia Flyers alternating for the last 8. So one of these teams will win 2 in a row. It just hasn't been done for quite a while for both of them, Kevin.
Let me just add this quickly. I know some people have said that Austin Matthews and the goal scoring has stopped, going so wild, because obviously it was on an incredible run here. Austin Matthews has scored only 2 goals in 8 games. However, he has now not scored in 2 straight. The last time Austin Matthews went 3 consecutive games without a goal was November. Joe Madden likes a team total over. That's 4 goals minimum. Austin Matthews has not gone 3 straight without a goal since November, and it's minus 110 for Austin Matthews to find the back of the net. Joe, I think that's certainly something that makes a lot of sense. If you don't mind, Joe, I think we'll stick around. We have like 3-4 games left. We'll make sure that everyone's getting involved here with the ice, and then we'll continue to make it happen. We're live on Game Time Decisions. There's a ton of college basketball going on, plenty of college basketball that is set to start as well. We'll continue to break it down. We're live on a Thursday night. It's Game Time Decisions.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
and these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
The betting in-game, there's a big difference, right? Like the computer changes the numbers so often. Like, I tried to get this in right now, but in reality, as I saw plus 165 in the arena, they're hitting a shot. And I'm getting this like a couple of seconds late. And even the sports book, like, technology can only like travel so fast.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
How about this? Nikola Jokic, heavy favorite here to minus 170 price, followed by SGA at plus 250, and Luka Doncic at a 7-1 price.
It would require a whole lot from Luka to, like, 15 of the next 20 games he has to have triple doubles, like something absurd. And it really just comes down to Jokic being amazing, doing everything he's doing. Like, I hate to say it, but he's probably had this locked up the second Embiid was announced out.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid. All right, let's move quick here. We have 4 games left on the ice. Joe Madden, gracious enough to help us figure out the remaining slate. Joe, let's put these together in the 8 o'clock window. Dallas, a home favorite against the New Jersey Devils. Wild, a home favorite against the Anaheim Ducks. Both of those totals, 6.5. What do you like?
A lot of people are going to call me crazy with my first bet here. The New Jersey Devils, I saw Jake Allen get traded over to them, and I thought, oh my God, I can't bet with Jake Allen. But you look at Jake Allen's record versus the Dallas Stars, being phenomenally strong. I'm taking him over 27.5 save shots on goal. And I do think the New Jersey Devils have every opportunity of pulling off the sneak win here. So I'm going to take their team total over 2.5. I think it's the safest play. You're going to lay the juice at minus 138. And then give me the Ducks team total under 2.5. You're going to have to lay the juice again at minus 148. But Marc-Andre Fleury being phenomenally strong versus the Ducks in his career, 1.67 goals against average in his games playing against them. So it's going to be a tight game, but I think he can do enough.
All right, and then, Joe, what do we think here with the last 2 games? Calgary, a home dog to the Vegas Golden Knights, and then the Seattle Kraken booked as a home favorite against the Washington Capitals here. Any value in these 2 games?
Yeah, absolutely. Give me the over all day between Vegas and Calgary. I do think Calgary comes out to play in this one. They have Wolf in goal, though, and Vegas will be able to score on them. I'm looking at Noah Hanifin in his return to score on Calgary in this one, actually, at plus 550. All the value there all day. And then the Seattle Kraken, they're off that upset loss to the Vegas Golden Knights in their last game. They're going to be frustrated coming out in the first period. You can take them on the puck line, laying a half a goal. That's coming in at plus 152. Look for this team to come out with a vengeance off how they lost that last one, Kevin.
How about that? Every single game. There's about 1 billion of them. The Austin Matthews goal stands out. What's his 2+? We have enough time to check this? The last time we did this, it was Connor Bedard, and the people were excited. Austin, he's plus 500 to score 2.
Let's go.
That feels fantastic.
Let's go. Hat trick tonight, Kevin, maybe.
Hat trick. I love it, Joe. Thank you so much. We're right back to the rest of the card up next. Get in here. Let's make it happen. Thursday night, game time decisions. Kevin Walsh with you. I'm trying to figure out what starts at 7. Duke NC State does, because we're going to go through the card here, but before we're going to get to Davis. At 7 o'clock, give me NC State plus 11. Not 11.5, plus 11. It dropped a little bit down to 10.5 in some spots. I trust the Wolfpack. I know they just hosted Duke and got smashed. That's kind of a part of it. NC State caught 6.5 in that game. 5 points, the removal of home court. This is not a Duke home game, and it's not kind of a Duke home game. The game is in D.C. I know Duke's going to travel well, but 11 is far too big. It's an overreaction due to Duke going to their building and handling their business. NC State, that was their first double-digit defeat since late January. Okay, this is a team that's top 100, both offense and defense, nearly top 50 on the offensive side. Enough balance to not be outclassed here by Duke. I'm going to take NC State to hang inside this number. The other 7 o'clock games, college, I was going to lay it with Iowa State when it was 6.5. It has since went up to 7.5, now even 8.5. That's in line with what I thought. But if you still want to trust the spot, one number that stood out to me, Iowa State 5-1 against the number when playing with a rest advantage. This is now a K-State team playing their third game in 3 days up against the second best defense, according to KenPom, in college basketball. That is a tough, tough spot. JY is on Creighton, so if you want to back him, he's laying the number against Providence. And the Texas A&M SEC outright future begins the march as a 5.5-point favorite against Ole Miss at 7 o'clock. We'll go through the rest of it when we come. We're not going anywhere. Davis Madison will hook us up with a little same-game parlay. He's getting the mix of this Knicks game, this 204. JY has a Blazers team total under. Interesting spot. Let's bring the radio audience into the fold. Happy to have you. Where else would you be? Come on now. It's a Thursday night here on SportsGrid, Sirius XM, Channel 159. Kevin Walsh with you on Game Time Decisions. But let's throw it over to Davis Maddock. Knicks, Blazers, same game parlay.
All right, guys, we are back for another same-game parlay. Over on the FanDuel Sportsbook, we are focused on the New York Knicks traveling to play at the Motor Center against the Portland Trail Blazers. We're taking the over on 204.5. I know that's a crazy low number. Scoring across the NBA is so low right now. Clearly, there have been rule changes done from the league office. The last month of the NBA season was the third lowest free throw rate in any month in NBA history. So the rules have definitely changed. That being said, 204.5, it is just way too low, especially for a Knicks team that shoots so many three-pointers. We are going to take Anthony Simons on the Portland Trail Blazers to score 20 or more points. It's pretty much what he does on any given night for the Portland Trail Blazers. And then we are going to take Dante DiVincenzo to record 15 or more points in this game. DiVincenzo almost leads the entire NBA in three-point rate while playing about 40 minutes a night. For those New York Knicks, we're going over 204.5. Anthony Simons to score 20 or more points, and Dante DiVincenzo to record 15 or more points in this game. That gives us a 3-leg plus 241 same-game parlay on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Good luck tonight, everybody.
All right, little juice there with the over involved for that very, very low-scoring game. An over that we have live right now is Ohio State, Iowa. Pacey, 163.5 is your live total. That's 10 taller than what we played, so excited about that. We'll see if we can get home. Let's get the rest of the action on the board. We said we're on Villanova early with JY. I do like that spot at plus 4.5. Played terribly against DePaul. It's a bounce-back spot despite the victory. And, look, if you look, these teams, recently had games with Creighton, right? You kind of, do the spread math on them. And these teams are priced around evenly, right? Now, that was without Iguodaro and Kolek, but Iguodaro doesn't make up a 4.5-point difference here. I think if this thing was 2, I'd probably back off it, but 4.5 in a college tournament game like this, you can cover and not grab the win. I'm going to grab the 4.5 there with Villanova. My favorite game on the board tonight is New Mexico. Earlier in the day, they were a slight dog, 1.5. It's now minus 105 money line. Here's the deal. It's always, can you beat a team 3 times? Can you beat a team 3 times? Boise has beaten New Mexico twice already. Where I land on beating a team 3 times. If UConn plays DePaul 100 times, I expect them to win 99 out of it, okay? When you play a team you're far better than, you'll beat them forever, right? If you beat a team you're a bit better than, right, then it can be difficult. If you beat a team twice that you're not better than, doing it a third time is going to be really difficult. New Mexico is better than Boise. They are. And if we want to talk motivation, New Mexico needs this game. Go through, look at bracket matrix, Mountain West, and where it all sits. Nevada, San Diego State, this Boise team. They're all in. Utah State. They're all in, except for New Mexico, who's apparently on this bubble. New Mexico grabs this Boise win. They would then play the winner of Nevada, Colorado State tonight, and a win over one of those teams should be enough for New Mexico. But if not, by the way, if they get that win, they're going to be in the final. They're going to be in the final. So this New Mexico team, from the motivation angle, has it. We know the talent level is there. I think they continue their march here and beat Boise tonight. That money line was minus 105. The NBA picks, smaller board. If you want looks, you want maybe parlay pieces. I took a look at the Brunson points prop, 26.5, up to 27.5 at spots. He hit this every time without Randall, and now has missed this in about 4 games. Some of that has just been blowouts, and I know that this is a blowout, but it's a bad defense. I think Brunson could have 20 by half in this game against Portland. Kyrie's threes, no Luka, yes volume. You're getting plus money on that 3.5. Kyrie Irving will be able to probably get about 9 attempts tonight against the Oklahoma City Thunder. You're hoping he makes 4 of them, but I ultimately pushed those aside. Here's what I did play. Boston -5. This is a first time, I think, all year long. It feels like a light number on the Celtics. This is the shortest number they've laid all season long at home, outside of a second leg of the back-to-back that Tatum and Kristaps missed, and they still laid 4.5 against the Toronto Raptors. This team laid 7 to Denver, 6 to Milwaukee, 8 or 9 to the Clippers. They've been laying double digits to the Mavs, to the Warriors, all these other teams. So, they laid 5.5 in Phoenix. Devin Booker does not make up a home court advantage swap. Home court advantage would take this to double digits. If you call home court advantage 2.5, do the math. From Phoenix, 2.5 plus 5.5. Where are we at? 8. Add another 2.5, 10.5. Is Devin Booker worth 5 points to a spread? No. I don't know if anybody is. Maybe Jokic and Giannis? Maybe? Devin, again, really like Devin Booker. That's just not how he's treated on a point spread. I am going to play Tyrese Maxey over 35.5 PRA. Really do like this spot for Maxey. First game back from the injury, did not get there against the Knicks. Part of that's the defense, part of that's the blowout. Volume's there. Milwaukee's still struggling. We can tell defensively. And Maxey has a chance to hit this on points alone. This has been pretty consistent cash when he's out there by himself. Obviously, no Joel Embiid. I like this spot here for Tyrese Maxey, bounce back style. Don't forget, before the injury, they had won 2 in a row, including a big-time win in primetime at Dallas. They'll step up here, I do think, and hang with Milwaukee. Give me Maxey over the 35.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Up next, we are talking with Mike Blewett. Some college, some NFL, with you here on Game Time Decisions.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Betting in game, there's a big difference, right? Like the computer changes the numbers so often. Like, I tried to get this in right now, but in reality, as I saw plus 165 in the arena, they're hitting the shot, and I'm getting this like a couple of seconds late. And even the sports book, like, technology can only travel so fast.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
How about this? Nikola Jokic, heavy favorite here at a -170 price, followed by SGA at +250, and Luka Doncic at a 7-1 price.
It would require a whole lot from Luka to 15 of the next 20 games he has to have triple doubles, something absurd. And it really just comes down to Jokic being amazing, doing everything that he's doing. I hate to say it, but he's probably had this locked up the second Embiid was announced out.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid. All right, we're live right here on SportsGrid. Plenty of live action on this college board. Great game right now between UCLA and Oregon. UNLV is trying to beat San Diego State for the third time, I believe, this year. A lot of points in Iowa State, and then a lot of other games are starting to open up. We'll talk some college hoops with Mike Blewett, but we're going to start with some NFL. But before all that, Mike, how are you? Feels like it's been a while, pal. How we doing?
Amazing, obviously, as you can see. It's March Madness time. It's Champ Week. Your boy was in 4 different states last week, one of them accidentally, and it all worked out in the end. It took me 23 hours to get from Asheville, North Carolina to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, but we did it, and we're here. We're talking college hoop. We're talking to NFL, but it's big week, too. We're tracking NFL free agency along with championship week, which is still the most underrated week in all of the sporting calendar. I think too many people wait to embrace the big tournament, but the action really starts in the very early days of March.
I mean, Mike, were people not breaking out the A-Sun tournament? I mean, the Hatters of Stetson,
Shockingly, some weren't. Many are saying that I was doing it every day, but too many let it pass and like, oh, the OVC crowned their champion. Right. As a matter of fact, they did. What's up, Longwood? Right. And then we're moving on to the Hatters, and then your boy was in Asheville, North Carolina.
Yeah, not enough people ripped up Lipscomb tickets with me, and that's ugly. All right, you all should have been there to rip up that Lipscomb ticket. Okay, when they lost that stupid game. But I do want to start with the NFL, Mike. I want to start with this because Russell Wilson's a Steeler, and the initial reaction for me is don't like that at all because I don't think Russ is all that good. Then you consider the money, right? And at the end of the day, what we saw last year, backup quarterbacks are the quarterback room matters more, right? Now, for me, Russ plus Pickett should allow them, if there's an injury, to be able to slot the other one in and be in a good spot. Where I know I'm on a complete island is I think Pickett can win that job. You're going to have a good read on this, though. What's your read on Russell Wilson joining the Pittsburgh Steelers?
So, to be fair to the people that have been dedicated viewers of this program when I was on, you and I weren't totally convinced that it was a lock that he would get there. And I'll raise my hand and say I wasn't sure if it was a lock. It made sense. It still makes some sense now, considering we got the details pretty quickly on him, $1.21 million. I mean, we're paying long snappers as much money as we're paying Russell Wilson next season. And it's an excellent insurance policy for them, but I don't think anybody in the building has been guaranteed any job. The only thing that anybody has said is we have an expectation that Kenny Pickett will be the number one quarterback. Not promised to him. It's just what they want to happen. Why wouldn't you want it to happen? You spent a number one pick on him just 3 years ago. So I think we'll look for Kenny Pickett to try to, can Russell Wilson, if he's in the Mitch Trubisky role that we just saw here in Pittsburgh, can he be the supportive backup quarterback if Pickett were to beat him out? I think people will have questions about that. I think much is made of Russell Wilson's off-field persona and that it's cringy or that it's disingenuous, but I don't ever find him to be mean-spirited or a bad teammate. Maybe his former teammates would disagree with that analysis, but I do think there's an opportunity here to answer your question for Pickett to win the job. It's just that, I have to be fair as an analyst and not a Steelers fan. There's a lot of warts in Kenny Pickett's play. I saw it live this year in addition to all the games we watched on TV, and the offense was better once he left.
It was, but also pretty unanimous that Matt Canada was atrocious, and that's who Pickett was working with for a long time.
Absolutely true.
I will say this, for the Russell Wilson regular season specials that have been posted, I'm betting absolutely none of them. Plus 175 to throw 25 touchdowns, plus 470 to throw 30 touchdowns. Not even from the starting point of Russ can't do it. Again, maybe not on an island, or minimum, Mike and I are on this same island. I think Pickett gets a chance. So often, quarterback battles do get decided by investment. And due to the contract that they were able to get Russ at, they have far more invested in Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett makes more money. Kenny Pickett was a first-round pick. So, I'm glad to see that, Mike, you are reading it similarly to me, because you know this organization well, that they're not going to move on from Pickett. But I guess the follow-up question is, if it's Russ, where are you at Steelers ceiling-wise? Right? We know the floor. It's 7 to 8 wins, right? That's the floor. What's the ceiling?
If Russ is in there?
Yeah.
I think, here's what I'll say. We have not seen Kenny Pickett's best, I hope, as an NFL player. We know we're not going to get Russ's fastball anymore, but I still think that because we know both players, Russ playing to his greater potential is better than Kenny Pickett's potential seems to be at the moment. So do I think there's a world in which Russ gets them to 11 wins, up over 10 this year? I do. Yeah. And it's also the collective roster is a little better. The one thing that was slightly dismissed about the Steelers this past season, Kev, is that they have one of the youngest teams in the NFL. People look at TJ Watt and Minkah Fitzpatrick and Cam Hayward and are like, look at all the veterans on that defense. Like, yeah, those guys are veterans. Joey Porter was a rookie starting corner, and Broderick Jones is a rookie starting left tackle. And there are many other young players on the offensive line, a couple of whom they've jettisoned. So the team is still pretty young. And I just think that extra year of experience and adding some additional weapons will help them. The Deontay Johnson, Dante Jackson thing, I think we are starting to see the Steelers round into a team that is going to play a little bit more old school regardless of who the quarterback is, try to win with defense, get Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren to be effective. I don't think it's a winning brand of championship football, Cav, but I do think they could get another win or two out of it.
Let me just sneak this in here because the big news of today was probably recently was that Calvin Ridley deal. There's some other quarterback stuff. Of course, you and I have to talk a little Justin Fields, maybe a little Saquon as well. But the Calvin Ridley move to Tennessee, is this just another sign that teams don't look to tank until they just end up being bad? Because Tennessee is a team that looked very obvious how they'll just be bad. But then they go and sign decent money to Calvin Ridley there, which was a bit surprising.
You can't flush your asset that you spent. They spent a very valuable asset on Will Levis, and he's now the starting quarterback. You have to do what you can to support him. We talk about this on this show a lot. You and I talk about it a lot on whatever show that we're on. Organizations do more to ruin quarterbacks than quarterbacks do to ruin organizations. And you have a litany of players that we can name who weren't really given a fair shot with a requisite number of weapons to be successful. I think of Geno Smith with the Jets, and now it took him 10 years, but he's more successful in Seattle because he has weapons. If you give Levis nothing, you'll get nothing. So at least try to give him somebody that's a professional wide receiver to be there to work with him, along with Treylon Burks.
I think that's totally fair. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to break. Here are the three things I promise you we will talk about. Where is Justin Fields going? How many rushing touchdowns will Saquon Barkley put on the board? And can the BC Eagles keep it going against UVA tonight? And I know
give the man an extra segment
to talk. You're waiting to talk BC Eagles, baby. We'll be right back here on a Thursday night.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Betting in game, there's a big difference, right? Like the computer changes the numbers so often. Like, I tried to get this in right now, but in reality, as I saw plus 165 in the arena, they're hitting the shot, and I'm getting this like a couple of seconds late. And even the sports book, like, technology can only travel so fast.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
How about this? Nikola Jokic, heavy favorite here to minus 170 price, followed by SGA at plus 250, and Luka Doncic at a 7-1 price.
It would require a whole lot from Luka to 15 of the next 20 games he has to have triple doubles, like something absurd. And it really just comes down to Jokic being amazing, doing everything that he's doing. I hate to say it, but he's probably had this locked up the second Embiid was announced out.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid. Bonnies and Ramblers in OT right now, little A10 action. We'll get to all of that. Let's quickly do the Justin Fields thing. So over the break, Mike and I ran through this because I didn't want to cut our time too short. How many teams can you reasonably bring up for Justin Fields and not get laughed out of the room? This is Mike and I think, being pretty generous. 5 teams. New England, Denver, the Giants, the Vikings, and the Seahawks. By the way, of that group, the Giants brought in Drew Lock, the Vikings brought in Darnold, Seattle today brought in Howell. So I told you we were being generous. Mike, right now, we sit here. Do you feel like Justin Fields is sticking with the Bears or landing somewhere else?
He's definitely landing somewhere else. What's happening now to the Bears is they've killed, the market is killed for them. There's no injured quarterback to utilize. Now, some people have posited that they can keep him around and wait for somebody to get hurt during the summer. That is not going to happen. That would be too difficult of a dynamic for Caleb to be there taking all the reps and Justin Fields holding his helmet on the sidelines. They're not going to do that. But it's just driving the price down now that the market looks now worse than we could have anticipated for Justin Fields. I think if Sean Payton thought there was a realistic opportunity that Justin Fields could be his starting quarterback, he'd already be a Bronco. Sean Payton is not the guy to wait around and play the field a little bit. He doesn't care if he spends a little more. The Waltons are the owners. He's a longtime head coach. If he felt like Justin Fields was the guy, he'd be the guy already, I think, or will be in the next couple of days. I don't really know what would have taken so long. I think the Vikings are interesting. Seattle, if you're moving on from Geno, but where does Geno get dealt to? Who really are you're looking at Geno to be a backup somewhere? You'd have to figure out how the money all works out. I will say this. I'm not saying it's the right plan, but if I were New England and I thought I could rehab Justin Fields, I would love the opportunity to take Marvin Harrison and have Justin Fields be the quarterback for 2 years. If you thought you could rehab. There's a lot of people listening to us saying, you guys are nuts. Fields stinks. All he does is run around. Well, I think the best player in this draft is Marvin Harrison Jr. Most people think that. We're just obsessed with the quarterbacks because we think those are going to be the top 3 picks. It's not that Jaden Daniels and Drake May aren't super talented, but Jaden Daniels might be 175 pounds. And the last time we saw a North Carolina quarterback drafted in the top 3, he flamed out miserably. And Drake May isn't a flawless prospect. So I'm just saying that it is in my realm of possibility that I take Marvin Harrison, trade a nothing for Justin Fields, and roll with that. And if they stink again, and the roster does stink, by the way, then they can look to draft somebody next year. But we all know that the 2025 quarterback class isn't strong.
I will say the reason why, for me, Washington, New England, and even Chicago, I can't get there with Fields, is even if it goes well, that then means you need to be paying him sizable money, and we know the value of the rookie quarterback contract. I think at this moment, for a while, Vegas was my favorite landing spot, even when people thought it was Atlanta. I just thought him playing with Antonio Pierce would be great, a guy who I thought would believe in him. I think now, and admittedly, maybe the money wouldn't make any sense here, but a Justin Fields-Geno swap, I could see. While I'm sure Geno would be somewhat upset about it, I trust him enough to be a professional to back up Caleb Williams. And if by some chance they don't want Caleb to be the guy week 1, Geno could do it. And if you're Eberflus and you need to win this season, Geno Smith could help that team push postseason if you, for some reason, wanted to be patient with Caleb. Quickly with Saquon Barkley. I bring this up because I posited it when he landed in Philly. Can't wait to see the season-long rushing touchdown total for Saquon. I did not think they would post it right away. Shout out to sports books that are excited to boost these NFL numbers out there. It is 6.5. Last season, Swift, 5, Hurts, 15. However, how quickly we forget, the season before that, Miles Sanders, 11. This is Saquon Barkley we're talking about, Mike. This, to me, is a yes-no. Will Saquon play 14 games this season. What do you think of that Saquon number, and what do you think about him landing with the Eagles?
That was 6.5 rushing touchdowns, correct? So,
yep,
a little trickier. I think Saquon has a double-digit touchdown season. I would take the over here. We all know that Jalen Hurts can vulture a lot of those touchdowns, but Saquon he's not Gus Edwards. He's not the 1 yard in a cloud of dust guy. He can break plays, and he gets utilized in the red zone. So I would be leaning towards the over there. And because Saquon has a sordid injury history, there's a little bit of a movement towards people saying, he'll never finish a season. It's the reason why when people predict injuries like that, you need to dismiss it. We're not in the business of predicting injuries. We can be concerned about it, but he played 16, 14, and 13 games in the last 3 years. Year before that was a washout. And by the way, the only reason he missed the 3 or 4 games this year was because Brian Daboll handed the ball off to Saquon Barkley on a kneel-down situation. It's a fact. Go back and look at the Arizona game. That's what happened. It was a stupid reason for him to get hurt. Now, back to Saquon landing with the Eagles. There's obviously intrigue there because he is moving within the division, but I guess I'm a little surprised that the Eagles plunked down that kind of money, but it is all relative now with the cap going up as much as it did. They shed several contracts, Byard and Kelsey and Cox no longer taking up money on that roster. It gave them some more wiggle room. So I think it's a really interesting go for it kind of off season. Howie has done this before, and he is obviously one of the more accomplished GMs when it comes to making transactions. So when you put all their transactions together, Kev, it's clear that there's no sort of transition here. We're piling talent on and going for it. We need to secure the back end of the defense further through the free agency and the draft, and we feel good about our offense, particularly our rushing offense.
Yeah, I just think this is a team, and again, it doesn't mean it was the best thing to do. I think they really just wanted a positive splash because the Eagles' news has almost exclusively been negative since they beat the Bills in overtime. Now let's get to what everybody's been waiting for, Virginia-Boston College. Mike and I have worked together for, certainly longer than I've worked with anyone here. And I think just because Mike and I are both good guys, we've, from afar, rooted on one another's college basketball teams. I admittedly don't care about BC football. I wish the best for Mike. But there is something about
Bill O'Brien, what's up?
Mike,
you want to do a Bill O'Brien
Bill
thing?
O'Brien's going to be in it. I know.
Stretch it out. Give me another 14 minutes.
Let's keep going. Hey, keep going. Extend. Here's the thing. Mike yesterday, because he's a good friend, texted me about the Iona Gales and their march going down. It's unfortunate. They, though, hopefully will bounce back. But Boston College being here is something that I would love to root on Mike for. Unfortunately, I'm licking my chops because I did take a piece of Virginia at 19-1 to win this tournament before it began, and BC helped me out a ton by beating Clemson, who would actually be favored if they were playing tonight over Virginia. So, Mike, I have to root on Virginia. If it is Boston College, honestly, I'll just laugh a bit that your BC Eagles decided to get on this run and knock out Virginia. But what do you think of their chances tonight here against UVA?
So I don't love the fact that they're playing third game in 3 nights against a team known for their defensive intensity, right? That's a difficult matchup. Yeah. They did play just a couple of weeks ago, though. These teams played to a close game. Virginia beat them by 4, 72-68. Tight game down to the last minute. So BC played them tight, and the fact that it's 5.5 here, I think it's a little curious. BC played really great. Honestly, the last 2 nights, it's probably the best back-to-back games they played in ACC competition all year, perhaps in the last 2 years. Last night, they thumped Clemson and Miami the night before, and they did it last night without Quentin Post, who was in foul trouble early, only played 24 minutes, and did not contribute. Claudell Harris Jr. going for 27 points. They are, I believe, 6-0 when he scores more than 15 points. So if he can keep it going against UVA, I think they'll be in a good position. And the fact that Post, interestingly, is somewhat rested, Kev, his second team All-ACC, might be helpful. I'm worried about the team being tired, but their best player, Quentin Post, just 2 nights ago posted the first 30-point double-double since Zion Williamson did in 2019. The fact that he actually got to rest a little bit last night is a funny way for him to show up in Game 3 for BC. Earl Grant been really good in the tournament, albeit in early rounds.
If people heard me reacting, in the background, the NFL world understood that Mike and I were in the mix. Steelers and Eagles making moves. Steelers, Montravius Adams, 2-year deal. What's up? Little re-sign action. Eagles, 1-year deal, $7.5 million. Devin White. All of a sudden, Howie Roseman found out the linebacker position is a real position.
It's got to be their first linebacker transaction. Got to be their first linebacker transaction in 7 years, maybe, for the Eagles. They hate the linebacker position. On the flip side, Steelers, the whole franchise is built through linebackers. The Patrick Queen signing, I think, shocking only because, again, he's in the division. But Patrick Queen, the Steelers love to load up at linebacker. That's how they're going to build their team until the end of time.
Yeah, how about that? Wow. Mike, what a blast. By the way, Mike Blue to be in the mix. As the college basketball coverage here on SportsGrid is about to ramp up in a big-time way. Mike, appreciate your time. The Conservative Index is next right here on Game Time Decisions.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
The betting in-game, there's a big difference, right? Like the computer changes the numbers so often. Like, I tried to get this in right now, but in reality, as I saw plus 165 in the arena, they're hitting the shot. And I'm getting this like a couple of seconds late. And even the sports book, like, technology can only travel so fast.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
How about this? Nikola Jokic, heavy favorite here to minus 170 price, followed by SGA at plus 250, and Luka Doncic at a 7-1 price.
It would require a whole lot from Luka to 15 of the next 20 games he has to have triple doubles, something absurd. And it really just comes down to Jokic being amazing, doing everything he's doing. I hate to say it, but he's probably had this locked up the second Embiid was announced out.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid. We're live with you right here. It is a Thursday night Game Time Decisions. Kevin Walsh with you. Great stuff from Mike Blewett helping us out as we get set for a lot more college hoops talk, which will be covered not just here on Game Time Decisions, but as well as in-game live. And I'm sure there are going to be some upsets for them to follow, and one of those could be Creighton Providence, a 9-point lead for the Friars over Creighton right now. Dave Sharapan is here. Consig, how are you? It is a Thursday night on Game Time Decisions.
I'm great. Good to see you. Following Blewett with BC, making a little bit of a run, winning games and stuff is exciting. There's tournaments going on all over. There's a bunch of them here in town. I get requests to meet up with guys about a thing at a game, whether it's at the Orleans or the Dollar Loan Center or Pac-12. It's crazy. It's the last year of the Pac-12, K-Dub, and I've gone the last couple of years to at least one couple games, and I got no interest in seeing any of the games there. I mean, I was going to go last night. Utah blows out Arizona State. There's a couple games coming up tonight that may be of interest to some people. I don't know. I don't know where to go, but I know the Big Ten's got a couple teams playing tonight. I mean, you might know who I'm thinking of rooting for. I'm just saying, come on.
That
is Iona still alive?
A heck of a game.
I can't
Don't
remember.
do that. Don't do that.
I don't remember. What happened?
Oh, that's not true. That's not true.
Did they
that's
lose?
Not true. Now look at the smile. All right.
I thought they were
going.
going.
That's all right. No, that's all right. Hoosiers! Line them up. Knock them down. How's that graphic made? Get out of town. Who'd you call to get that graphic made?
Who's the favorite in this game?
There's no way we had a pre-prepped Indiana Penn State graphic. I can't be. This
know
team's
we
on
did.
fire back here.
How
This team's
about
on
that?
fire. I got
Can
the
they
Iowa
win
Ohio
again?
State game over the number. What about that? Can we get some points?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you like Ohio State that game?
I went too back and forth on it.
You did?
But I went back and forth on Ohio State. Iowa was tough for me. You thought you had an easy read there?
I really, really like Ohio State since the coaching change. And I just think that they will outscore them. But I like the game with juice. Let's get some points.
Yeah.
Get over.
We're
Yeah,
rooting
that's
the
got to
juice.
be over. Yeah.
What do you think, since you want me to talk some Big Ten basketball, I mean, this Purdue-Michigan State game tomorrow is a huge game. I don't – look, I know Sparty's
I haven't seen the number yet. What's the number?
I think it's up. 6.5, Purdue.
Ooh, I made it 8 in my head. Less than 8. I'm leaning Purdue. No?
This
Are we
is
going to fall for the Michigan State thing again? Please tell me.
It's not even that. Look, they covered that game on the road, though. They did cover that. It's not that. It's so Consig knows this. I've been screaming about Gonzaga, right?
Yes.
So I'm very nervous they're going to put Gonzaga on the 8-9 line, and that would be, ridiculous behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan State could end up a 9. A lot of spots are projecting them at 10, but Michigan State, it's such a bizarre thing. All of their advanced numbers still have them as a top 20 team. But
how is that possible?
This is one where I don't know. But again, this is Purdue, Michigan State is a very well, I don't know if they would. I don't know if they try and avoid conference matchups in round 2. But if you're UConn and you draw Michigan State in the round of 32, that's just unfortunate luck. Is what it comes down to. And again, I don't think they're that great, this Michigan State team, but the reality is you'd rather be laying 10 than 6. It's just how it goes.
Yeah.
So, man, I think it's really interesting. I'll tell you this as well, Dave, you and I talked a lot about this North Carolina team.
Yes.
And
I love
them. Now, maybe I'm too focused
I don't like
on
them.
the
I love them.
market. But here's the deal, man. They're very close to grabbing this 1 seed. I mean, a lot of these, brackets have it as Tennessee, but the Vols are in for a dogfight here in this SEC tournament. We know that.
Yes. Yes.
So they were the longest favorite of all the big teams. Of all the big teams, Tennessee was the longest favorite. Okay. So if they don't win that SEC tournament, North Carolina grabs a one line. All of their futures are too long. Again, what happens
the problem
is what happens.
with this sounds like a lot of the discussion we would have in the room or even in the book, just in general this week.
Yeah.
Tennessee's fate may be decided in just getting to the SEC championship. If they just get there, they may be the 1 seed. They don't allow like the swings on one game to determine whether a 1 or a 2. Now, it may be a difference between an 8 and a 9 or a 7 and an 8, which, is a different path. But the top teams by Saturday, I think, and you're going to be doing the shows on the weekend and stuff, we'll have a much better idea, like going into Sunday, before the games are even played, of where those teams will be. I think Tennessee, just my thought, if they just get to the SEC championship, they're a 1 seed. I think they're going to make them a 1 seed.
Assuming the path, right, to your point,
Yep.
if favorites hold, getting there would see them beat Auburn, which is, to Dave's point, just as good as North Carolina beating Duke, based on how those teams are valued, right?
Correct. Yes.
But I don't know if in the room they go, they're an ACC champion. Like an SEC, they didn't win their conference. I don't know. Right? Here's the other thing, though. Look, Kentucky and Bama are the 2 teams on the bottom. We know they both could beat Tennessee, assuming Tennessee gets there.
Right.
It's also very possible neither one of them show up to that game because they forgot to play defense and they got bounced. It wouldn't surprise me one bit. I think it's very possible that Auburn-Tennessee is the title game. You know what I mean?
I like that.
Auburn personally.
I like
Auburn personally in that game.
Okay.
So
like what you just did there. That was nice.
I want to ask you something with a change that they're going through this week is back-to-backs. And it's funny, but in the NBA, NBA bettors are used to back-to-backs all the time.
Correct.
In college, this isn't a thing outside of the first weekend, right, when we're doing some tournaments in Hawaii. But all of a sudden now, Baylor, right, is, I think, a perfect example, playing Cincinnati. I think overnight, 5.5, now 7.5, right? I mean, a lot of these teams that have rest advantages have only grown stronger favorites throughout the day. In the room, are they factoring in rest, which they never have to do?
I think there's a little bit of – it's so hard to weigh that into the opener before you talk it through. You put up a number that is just without the back-to-back in play and let the market move you. Now, in most cases, you see what's happening. People are betting the favorites. This is par for the course.
Yeah.
This is exactly what happens this week, next week. They bet the favorites. So,
okay.
Early in the tournament this week, the dogs have been. We're Thursday. This is when the favorites will start to cover, starting later tonight, tomorrow probably. And then the weekend, all the bets are off.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see who advances in a lot of these spots. And we've talked about it, man, but some of the numbers that sit out there, and this is a short window, right? Like, let's see where this A&M team, A&M's only up 2. It's a lot of basketball left in their game against Ole Miss. A lot of game, but A&M was, we know at one point they were 100. Let's use the 80 number. That's the one that I bet. Off of one win. 40? 40? What do you think? What is that A&M to win the SEC tournament go to after one win, which would put them in the quarterfinals? They'll play Kentucky in their second game, assuming, of course, they beat Ole Miss.
What was it before? 80?
Yeah.
Okay, so if it was 80, they win. What's the first number that comes to your head? 8.5?
For
Kentucky?
That's a bad number. No, I don't think they like Kentucky that. A&M beat this Kentucky team. Kentucky not that
No,
long
but
ago was catching a
Kentucky's
5.5.
the team right now. Kentucky is this. Like, I'm out in the books and
Yeah. No, I look. They are. Here's the thing. They're a very appealing team. They're the most exciting team they're the most exciting team in college basketball, bar none. And now they're putting results up on the board, on top of being unbelievably exciting, scoring 100 points in all these games, giving up 100 points. So I see it with Kentucky. Let me use this little bitty here that I just try and see to eye up a number. 20. Let's see. Hold on. Give me a second here. 25.5. I'd say the top is 6.
Okay, that's probably the opener, but I know where we're going. They're not looking to take Texas A&M in that spot. I don't think so. So we got to chop the future down. We may even chop it down more, because then what? It's 2 more games or 3? It's 2 more games, right?
It would be the semi and then the final after Kentucky.
Oh, so it's a 3-game parlay. Kentucky and then 2 more?
Yeah.
I'll be just working it out quickly in my head. It's at least 30-1. So,
Which
but I mean,
is still
if you want
long.
Yeah.
But it's half. I said this when I placed that Virginia bet. I will beat this number before they tip.
100%.
I did. It's 10. Now that's because Clemson lost to BC, but that's why I bet the team with the double buys.
That's right. That's why. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'll tell you this right now. All right, it's half. It's 35-32 NC State. If Duke loses, Virginia's favored in the semifinal against NC State if they beat Boston College.
Correct.
That's that. Okay?
Yeah.
So
now,
Virginia plays North Carolina. Oh, that's gonna be ugly. It's gonna be really ugly.
It's gonna be bad. You bet Virginia's team total under.
I'll tell you, it'll be so funny if this Virginia team gets to the final of this ACC tournament, but they don't play any good teams on the way there. So the committee goes, "We don't care. You didn't beat anybody. Oh, no, we didn't get to play anybody."
Well, if they get to the final, they're getting in. That debate is
beating BC and NC State.
They're
the 11 and the 10.
I'm telling you, they're in.
All right.
I don't think they should be, but they're in. Give me a hockey play on the way out. Something.
I didn't play it, but the Austin Matthews will score tonight. Austin Matthews will score -110. And Sig, best bet on the way out. We'll be right back.
When it comes to betting on sports, injuries matter, and Sports Injury Central has you covered all year long with expert injury analysis and injury-based picks for the NFL, NBA, and MLB. Our former pro sports doctors have unmatched experience to analyze every injury so you know the impact of the player, team, and their upcoming matchup. Whether it's articles, podcasts, player insights, or our patented injury scores, Sports Injury Central will help you keep up with your fantasy team and make more informed wagers. So make sure you follow Sports Injury Central and gain an edge at sixscore.com.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The betting in-game, there's a big difference, right? Like the computer changes the numbers so often. Like, I tried to get this in right now, but in reality, as I saw plus 165 in the arena, they're hitting a shot. And I'm getting this like a couple of seconds late. And even the sports book, like, technology can only like travel so fast.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the rim.
All I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live, all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart teams.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on.
All right, we're closing it out. Game time decisions with you on SportsGrid. I'm Kevin Walsh. Thursday night, in-game live. Very busy night for those guys. Because coming up for them, halftime coverage of Creighton trailing Providence and Duke trailing NC State. And there's a lot more coming tonight here. I am on NC State plus 11. Love that. I'd be very happy to see Duke eliminated, quite honestly, because that's great for the UVA future. And as somebody hoping that UNC grabs a 1 seed, that's going to make that pathway easier for North Carolina as well. So we'll see what happens there. We'll see if it holds. Look, Duke's the type of talent they can come back, they can win that game outright and cover it by, a few points. We know that's possible. We'll see how it goes. But some big teams that are inside the top 10, currently trailing at the break in their opening game of conference tournament action. Let's talk a little Mountain West basketball. My favorite bet on tonight's board is New Mexico outright, minus 105 on their money line in their matchup with Boise. I thought about playing the New Mexico future at plus 500 to win the Mountain West. They won their opening game against Air Force. It didn't move. And part of that is because the pathway for New Mexico is difficult. If they get through Boise, they're going to have to play Colorado State and Nevada. And for New Mexico, if they beat Boise and then beat the winner of Colorado State and Nevada, they're probably going to be in the tournament. But still only probably. There's a lot of betting motivation around the year, around this time of year. And for the Mountain West, the team with the most motivation is New Mexico. And, this is the team that's been viewed as the second best in the conference all year long to San Diego State. So I think it's time they show it. And Boise's already beaten them twice. Boise is a touch below New Mexico. You're not beating a team better than you 3 times. It's not happening. Not a team that's desperate, and that's what New Mexico is. They didn't play around with Air Force. They smashed that team. I think they have a really good chance to smash Boise as well. They owe that team a beatdown. We're also on Nova, plus the 4.5, as well as an over 35.5 PRA for Tyrese Maxey in that Sixers-Bucks game. Kevin Walsh, I will see you this weekend, a big weekend. Game time decisions, in-game live is next. Good luck.